Pum pum. Works. We live in the era of consumerism because we spend our money on a lot of things and we start using them rarely. And then we store them away and we end up with something like this in our garage. Let's take an example. How many of you have a power drill at home? How much time did you use it? How many times? Do you know that the average use of a power drill in its entire life, it's just 30 minutes? Do you know that statistically a book is read 2 or 3 times in its entire life? Isn't that a waste? So, there are a lot of people who have these objects and they use them rarely on one side. On the other side, there are a lot of people who would want to use these objects, have access to them, but they wouldn't want to buy them just for once, using them once, twice, or something like that. So it's a market which is untapped. And it's part of the global trend called sharing economy, which is not at its peak yet in Eastern Europe. And this is where we come in. UseTogether is a community based on an online platform where people can share their items in an easy-to-use and fun process. It's about swapping, donating, and borrowing items. We've started the Startup Weekend Cluj in 2012, 1 year and 3 months ago, where the idea won the competition. We launched the beta version in September last year. It was invitation-based. And since then, we got to 1,600 members last week when we went out from the invitation-based model. We reached 2,000 objects, and with 200 trades, swapping of objects happening each month, we've validated the product and we're confident that the idea has a huge potential. We plan to monetize through 2 ways, and now we're testing them. First is rentals. So we will enable users to rent more expensive items that you wouldn't just borrow to someone. And we will take a small percentage of the renting price. Second is virtual currency. So you will be able to gain points if you're active on the platform and use those points later, or to buy them if you don't have time to have activity on the platform. Of course, there are a couple of secondary monetization ways, which we will see how to apply at some point later. We have competition, but mainly it's based in US and Western Europe, and they're focusing on the markets there. What sets us apart is the fact that we're focusing on creating a community. Because in a community, there are members who are engaged, and this is really important for the user retention, for the trust that we have to ensure on the platform. Of course, anyone could use the product. But we have to start from somewhere, and we're focusing now on some niches, some verticals. First, book lovers. There are a lot of books in the world which are not used. Second, parents who need expensive items for the kids. You know, a mother can spend from 1,000 lei to 3,000 lei per year for a kid with objects that are used 6 months, 1 year, and they cannot be used anymore because the kid grows up. And winter sport equipment, which you use 2 or 3 times during the winter, and that's it. Another way of approaching is important for us to go into communities, already formed communities where people trust, where people share information, and they meet often. And this is the right environment for them just to use a service like this, to swap items between them. The team is founded of 7 people, and we cover all the aspects of a business, from marketing, development, business, and design. We've been funded from Launch Hub 3 months ago, and we have 2 mentors, Philip Kandal, CTO of Skobler, and Lyuben Belov, managing partner of Launch Hub. What we plan to do in the next months is to find the best growth use cases, to test these niches, to implement the monetization, and we will be looking for an investment in 3 to 6 months, a seed investment. Thank you very much.
please raise your hand so that we can see and bring microphones.
Quick question. The last part I wasn't sure. How much money are you looking for exactly?
We're looking from 300,000 to 400,000. An investor who would be willing to co-invest with Launch Hub if they agree also. So it's going to be a co-investment.
But you have already received money from Launch Hub?
Yes, 30,000.
So this would be a second investment by Launch Hub?
Yeah.
And did Launch Hub agree to reinvest, to invest further?
If they will agree. We have a plan, and we want them to be co-investors. If we match all the criteria, that's the point in autumn.
Do you have any kind of metric about how much revenue you would expect per transaction, and then how many transactions you would eventually need to become self-sustaining and then profitable?
We plan to test the monetization in the next 2 months, and then we will draw the conclusions, and afterwards, by the autumn, when we will need the second investment, we'll have all the conclusions in order to present to an investor. Now we still have to test this, and of course it's really different because there are a lot of verticals, a lot of objects, and we have to adapt to each one of them.
Any other questions?
So right now, what's the status of this business? Are you actively renting stuff? How are things going?
Renting at this point is like a checkbox, and people can check, I want to rent this item on the platform. We don't get into this kind of transactions yet. We will see if the users want it, what kind of objects they're willing to rent in the next months, and then we will transform it into monetization.
And what can you share of your insights until now? What kind of objects are mostly rented?
Okay,
or?
we started with books, which of course not really rentable. And now we have cars, we have tablets, computers, all kind of devices on the platform. So we expect the ones which will be monetized through renting to be the ones which are more expensive. But I don't have data exact to tell you now.
One last question. And what are you going to be anyhow liable if someone rents a computer and then disappears or give its?
One of the competitors that we have is monetizing through insurance. I think this wouldn't work large scale here in Eastern Europe, but there in Netherlands it works. And we plan to introduce also this insurance thingy, which will also cover the loss if something like this happens. At the same time, we'll also be able to monetize this. But we're also enforcing a lot of trust. And we have couchsurfing-like model, rating, evaluations, profile, and all these kind of things, which can tell you about the user with whom you're exchanging something. So you can choose not to if you don't feel like trusting enough that person.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.